Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to How to Pitch Like a Goddess. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Center, along with our partner Mentor Cloud, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. You can create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using the link in the chat. Mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Quick housekeeping, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event with our speaker, so please submit your questions for them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We'll try to get to them all. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all of the amazing support and contributions from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, and BPM. We're humbled and grateful for their contributions. During these still unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs that we work with. So before we get started, I just want to take a poll to just let us know how you're feeling about your business right now. It's the almost end of the year, Q4 closeout. Hopefully optimism is up there. Thank you for participating. Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for participating. All righty. Welcome from Colorado. Welcome from Vegas. Alrighty, I'm gonna end this poll, share those results. Looks like optimism's on the rise, but totally understand that just some survival mode out there. There's a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of fear. So hopefully the presentation today will help alleviate some of those negative sentiments. So that being said, without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome in the chat to our special guest. Nilima Achwal is the founder of the Female Founders Lab. Nilima, welcome.
Thanks so much, Colin and Cody. It is so exciting to be here with everyone. And I know there's almost 70 of you guys out, like women, ladies, and gentlemen out there. And I can't see any of you. So I am going to have a few house rules for today, you guys. We have like all of our energies literally in this room right now across the entire United States as well as the world. So the number one rule I have for today is I need you to be super, super active in the chat. Can we agree to that? So if you agree to that, right, I'm here in the chat box right now, and let me know your city where you're dialing in from. I see Amy, Karamoko, Jasmine, Cody, Dana, Kelly, Katie, Chrissy, Lenny. Yes, I feel you guys. I feel your energy. Yes, this is what we need. Thank you so much. I'm here. Hi, SF. Yes, yes, Detroit, Michigan, NorCal. Fantastic. The number two rule that I have for our container today is that this is going to be a powerful session. This is going to be an energetic transmission. It's going to be a mental transmission. It's going to open your heart. There's going to be a lot of information packed into, I have until 10:45 until we open Q&A. And so I want you to mentally commit to being here for the whole session and really opening for whatever wants to come through for you and your venture. And so this means turn off your gadgets right now. I'll give you all a second to turn off your phones, turn off any tabs, all the tabs you have open right now, and just make this full screen and just be here for this and be present with me. Can I get that? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. With that said, Denmark, I love it. LA, I'm in LA, so I'm based in Venice Beach, Los Angeles, California. And I will get into all of my background, and we will have time for questions and stuff at the end. But the first thing I always do at the beginning of any session is that I take a grounding breath so that we can all come into our heart space as well, kind of bringing our whole bodies into this space. So everyone close your eyes. And I just want us to take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth together. And as we take this breath, just place one hand on your heart and connect to the other 70 people who are in this space together right now. Yay. Let me know how you feel in the chat box after our little grounding breaths. And I will go ahead and share my screen. So, and I can still see your chat as I'm going through this presentation. So welcome to How to Pitch Like a Goddess. My name is Nilima Achwal. I'm the founder of the Female Founders Lab. And we are a virtual accelerator for ideas that can transform industries, particularly looking at healthcare, education, future of work, future of communities, media, circular economies, cities, even prison systems, but really looking at these really complex industries that are actually very, very old and gnarly and bureaucratic, and looking at like, what does a radical transformation look like in these industries that can serve human life? I've been doing the Female Founders Lab for about the last couple of years, but I've been in the startup space for the last 15 years, which I'll get into my story there. But long story short, grew up in Michigan, spent 6 years in India, and then moved back to California in 2017, and started the Female Founders Lab. And so just jump straight into my story here. So this is a picture of me standing on stage at the Bombay Stock Exchange in August of 2016. So this is the dress rehearsal for the demo day, and like raise your hand, let me know if you know what a demo day is in the comments. I know that most of you are entrepreneurs and founders, and I got your information beforehand, and so I know that there's this is one of the world-class tech accelerators in India, sponsored by Google, government of India, and I've literally spent the last 6 weeks pouring my heart and soul and energy into perfecting my pitch for this demo day. And this demo day is culminating about 3 years of nonstop being a startup founder in a foreign country. And during this time, I have literally put everything into my venture, but I'm at this point where I'm like running out of money, and this needs to be a really, really good pitch. And so the next day, there's literally going to be investors and corporate leaders from all over the world watching me pitch. Daniel, LOL, I know that feeling. Yeah. And somehow, I mean, I don't know why the tech ecosystem does this, but it's like everything is always like high stakes, high pressure. Everything leads up to these moments where you get like exposure to the people who you want buy-in from. And so this is culminating. This started about 3 years earlier. When I was in India, I was running a seed stage accelerator funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. And there was a highly publicized rape case that happened in North India. And it was one of those watershed moments where there was protests all over the country and people's traumas just got released. And there was all these protests against rape and sexual violence. And interestingly, when I had moved to India to work in the social impact space, I had wanted to start something around gender equality. And this was kind of just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And you saw a lot of innovations coming out of the startup space, like, there's safety apps and panic buttons. But, this is a very, very complex social issue. It's a very, like I was talking about the industries earlier, it's a gnarly problem. There's many layers to this problem. And the most that I was seeing coming out of the startup space was like panic buttons. And like the craziest example of like a product solution was like an electric bra that gives off shocks so that you're like protected when you're on the train or something. And I remember thinking like none of these things are actually going to heal and transform gender relations in this country. So I quit my job at the accelerator and I started a sex education venture to bring sex education into middle schools across the country. So I created a completely taboo-free curriculum, a game-based curriculum that could be used by any teacher or facilitator in the country with minimal training to carry this out at scale. And so this is a country where people don't even say the word sex. It's been taboo for 3,000 years. And even governments have not been able to bring any sort of like gender or sexuality education into schools because the taboo is so deep. So I was pretty much trying to do something that had not been done before. And so created this curriculum, built it out, and started doing pilots. So this is a picture of me in a slum classroom in Mumbai at a Teach for India school, which is like a Teach for America in India. And this is like such a tiny little like classroom that it's basically like you have to go in first and make it to the blackboard, and then all the kids come in and they cram in, and then no one can move, and then the kids have to leave, and then you can leave. And this is a classroom where the Teach for India fellow had specifically called us in and said that the student behavior is so bad that the teachers can't teach, that the like little boys are getting harassed by the older boys, girls are getting like harassed on the way to school, and like it's just like a complete chaos situation, and like, can you help us? So we went in, ran our pilots in this classroom. And at the end of the course, we started getting testimonials like this. So I had a little boy come up to me and say, I used to think that I had to force a girl at any cost, follow her, keep trying. And after you taught us, my mind changed completely. Now, if a girl says, no, I won't force her, I'll accept it and I'll move on. And he's like, what's more, I'm spreading this information among all the other boys in the school. And the girls are telling me I'm more confident, I'm speaking up when I'm on my period, I'm not missing school. And so across the board, we just saw this sea change happen in this classroom. And the most amazing thing for me is that when we went into this school, like 6 months later, we went in and all the teachers stood up and gave us a standing ovation. And they're like, you've literally turned our most toxic, misbehaving classroom into the most respectful, well-behaved class in the whole school. And so we want to replicate this for all of the grades. So at this point, I was like, this is crazy. I'm holding the key to healing sexual violence at scale in a country where this has, sex education has not been taught for thousands of years. So imagine the responsibility. I'm just a startup founder, but I know that I've created something that can change the world. So I'm like, how do I get this? How do I scale this out to reach every child in the country? Well, after spending all my money on product development and pilots and iteration and perfecting the magic of what I was doing, I needed capital. And I was almost out of money. And that's why I was at the dress rehearsal for this tech accelerator demo day. And so, as you can imagine, it's really, and all of you know this feeling, you are founders and entrepreneurs, like it is hard work being a founder and you have poured everything into this. And so I was really exhausted by the time it was time for me to give this pitch. So this is the dress rehearsal. I give my pitch and I'm just like waiting for feedback from the mentors. Like, what do I need in order to succeed? And so I do my pitch, I finish it, and there's silence. I'm like waiting. Everyone's just kind of looking at me like, it's one of the mentors. She just like kind of looks at me. She like pushes up her glasses. She's like, what is that font you're using on the slides? And like, well, what? Like, there's no animations. Like, there's no animations in any. Like, I honestly, you must have spent 5 minutes on that deck. Like, my 10-year-old could have done a better job than that. And I'm like waiting, and like no one really. And I'm like, there's really no other feedback. I'm like, okay. And I go home, and I'm devastated. I'm like, this is like one day before I have to pitch, and there's no honoring of any of the actual work that I'm doing. It was about the deck. And so I kind of said to myself, I was like, okay, if people can't see or hear me, then why am I doing this? I might as well go home. So I made a plan, and I wrapped things up, and I went back to California. And maybe a few months later, I'm sitting in the kitchen of my parents' house in Northern California. And it's like completely silent. There's like birds chirping outside. And I get an email. And the email is from the largest corporation in India, Tata. And they say, we've been watching you, and we've been lobbying inside our organization, and what the work that you've done is tremendous and revolutionary. And we want to actually buy your entire program and license it and roll it out to 600,000 youth in every single city across the whole country, year on year. So in that moment, thank you. In that moment, I feel this sigh go through me, and I was like, I was right all along. I was right. Do you guys know this feeling? My vision was right. I always knew what I was doing, right? And I realized this is my team. Literally. It's like me and these two girls, like team of 3 people. I had some friends and family money. I had no connections in a foreign country. But most of all, there was no precedent for breaking the taboo on sex education in India, in this age-old land of 1 billion people. But I had a vision. I was like, I think I can do this, right? And so the question is, how did I achieve something that hadn't been achieved by governments or private institutions or NGOs in probably less than 3 years? Well, what I realized is that I had been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. I'd been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. And this is what I call goddess leadership. All gonna click in. Probably like, why is this called Pitch Like a Goddess? Okay, we're getting there. So, goddess leadership. Number one, my vision chose me. I was a channel for my vision to come through me. So when that rape case happened, I was angry. We are full embodied leaders, right? There's emotions that guide us in our decision making. And I knew that, and I also knew that I had the lived experience to be able to solve this problem because I was a curriculum writer. I used to write case studies for the University of Michigan Business School. right? And I used to like teach Princeton Review. Like I was a curriculum writer. I had that experience. I had worked with startups. I knew how to run a startup. Like I had the vision, but I also had the unique lived experience. And I really felt like this is for me to carry out. And until I birthed this into the world, it was going to keep frustrating me inside my body that this thing wanted to be birthed. This is very different from being like, here's 100 business ideas and let me try all of them and see which one makes money. There's nothing wrong with either approach, but this is a feminine approach. My vision shows me I am a steward for this to be birthed through me. And so the insight here is that first, I needed to anchor first in my vision and my unique ability to carry out. And so whenever I'm questioned like by an investor or someone like, why don't you change this to like a B2C and just turn it into a software product? I'm like, no, that's not going to create the transformative impact in kids' lives because it has to be a group program. It has to be in schools. Like I know this in my body, right? And how many times have you guys been pushed different ways by mentors or investors? And you must discern for yourself, know in your heart, like what is part of your vision and how much can you kind of take feedback. So this was fundamental. Number two, I created a container for others to join me in my vision. So a container that could be a product, a service, a program. A container can also be the space that you're holding to raise your seed round, right? So for me, the container was, I have the sex education product. I was looking for partners to join me in my vision and like ed tech companies. And so the thing here is that, sure, you have your vision. I want to solve gender equality. For you guys, you might be like, I want to transform healthcare. I want to transform education. I want to start this wellness line, right? But if I just went to a company and I'm like, let's heal gender relations, they're going to be like, that's fine, but like we have a lot of things on our mind right now. So the key here is like, how are you immediately plugging into the other person's pain point and giving them kind of an opening, like an invitation into the broader vision. And so, for example, at the time, there's a lot going around like menstruation products, like there wasn't like pads and stuff in schools. So it's like, that's not the point. The point is to like open the larger conversation around sex education. But sure, I can start with this tangible thing that you understand. Right? So what is that in your sector? What do people understand? What have they seen on the news? What's relevant and top of mind? And start the conversation there and invite them to join you. And then number three is being seen and heard fully so you can become a magnet for values-aligned people. Right? So, so number three, being seen and heard and becoming a magnet for values-aligned people. I'm going to play a little game with you right now. Let me know in the chat if you're liking this so far while I take a sip of water and a breath. Thanks, Daisha, Benjamin, Cody, Laura, Catherine speaking right to me. I love it. Okay, let's play a game. Yes, my line of work. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna say some words, and I want you to put in the pitch box, in the chat box, in the pitch box. I want you to put in the chat box what, just feel any words, like how does it feel in your body when I say these words? Okay, pitching. Selling, pushing it out, going hard, convincing a customer, converting a customer, telling someone what they want to hear. Thanks. I got a lot of like anxious, scared, nervous, etc. I got a few love it, inauthentic, heavy, and genuine. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to give you a new set of words now. Being yourself, letting yourself be seen and heard, letting customers come to you where there's a natural fit, letting investors find you where there's love and respect, letting investors stay far away where there isn't. I'm laughing. I saw a couple like, what? Impossible. Calm, peace, peaceful. Okay, so there's no right or wrong, by the way, but there's two different energies we're playing with right now, which is pushing versus receiving, which is we do both all the time. And so every single person, male, female, non-identifying, we have masculine and feminine energies in our body. So the masculine energy is generally associated with mental. So it's like left brain, logical, competitive, assertive, very practical, driven by ego or status. So that basically means that our masculine side seeks external validation. So what is the data? What are other people saying? Does this make sense from an external perspective? Feminine energy, on the other hand, is associated with right brain. So it's imaginative, it's collaborative, it's vision-centric, it's purpose-centric. So it's about your heart, and it's about what is coming through you, what's coming through you from the inside. So instead of being out to in, it's in to out. So this is a difference between being externally validated versus internally sourced. Like I said, we need both all the time. We're doing both all the time. But sometimes what happens is that we have kind of forgotten the feminine side, right? We sometimes think that we must push harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And we forget that we must balance both at the same time. So when we consciously embodied our feminine energy first, we actually become magnets. So this is what this third goddess leadership principle means. When I let myself be seen and heard fully, I become a magnet for values-aligned people. So the insight here is that take the actions, but instead of feeling like you have to push harder, instead let yourself be seen and heard. And so this is where we really utilize our leverage. And so, for example, I was on a reality show in India. I was chosen as one of the top 12 social entrepreneurs in the country for like a Shark Tank type, like 10 episode like series. And so I actually was reaching 10 million viewers across the country on this show, right? And so there are so many things that block us from being seen fully in our authenticity, in the fullness of your expression and your vision and what you're trying to bring out into the world. And it's usually because we're scared that we won't be received. But this is flipping it on its head. And I'm telling you that if you are authentic and you let yourself be seen fully, then the right people, only then will the right people be able to find you and invest in you and partner with you. And the same goes for the scope or the scale of the visibility, is that the more you're comfortable kind of being seen by more and more people, there's more of a chance that the right values aligned people are going to come and you can invite them into your container. So these are the three major goddess leadership principles, which is, you know, the kind of the balancing of the feminine energy side of our leadership. So you might be thinking, what does this have to do with my pitch deck? Let me know in the comments right now if you are fundraising right now or if you're thinking of fundraising for your venture. Karen, yeah. Regina, Chris, Kim, Jacqueline, Adele, Melissa, Future. Awesome. Awesome. So I've worked with like hundreds of early stage founders throughout my career. And you start to see patterns after a while. And I work deeply with purpose-driven founders, like people who feel like, you know, my vision chose me, like this is something that I have to carry out in the world. And so each of these principles, so the first one, my vision chose me, I'm a channel for my vision. So where I see this play out on a pitch deck, especially when you have a solution that is a very system solution, like you can create value for so many stakeholders, and that can create a ripple effect, and you can disrupt the industry at large. It's huge, right? And at the same time, you're trying to communicate like your product and your linear growth path. So how this plays out in your pitch deck is you not embracing the fullness of your big vision and purpose, and you not embodying and amplifying your uniqueness as a founder. Why are you uniquely poised to carry this out in all of the bigness of what you're building? And so this is where we really, in the first few slides of the deck, you know, on the problem and opportunity slide, and where we're talking about like what's happening in the industry, like why this solution, why now, and why you? So why this solution is when you're highlighting the overarching pain points that are happening in the industry, right? Thanks, Johnny. And then someone said, my vision absolutely chose me. Yes. So you're saying you have to highlight statistics. So you know in your heart, this is a huge problem in the healthcare industry, for example. But all you have to do is you have to pull out the statistics to show them this is a problem, a huge problem in the healthcare industry. And why now? So this is a little bit of like the playing with the, like, what do they know about? Oh, okay, so I've heard of COVID. Okay, so COVID is disrupting this section of this. Sure, maybe it's been a problem for 30 years, but use the thing they know, right? And it's like, so this is actually like a pivoting point for the industry. Why now? And why you? Again, letting yourself be seen. And another thing in the first few slides, beyond the industry stuff, which a lot of times you'll miss, and it's so important, is I want you to bring it to life. I want you to take your ideal customer or user, put a beautiful picture of them. Tell me this is Amy, or like this is Jordan, and like this person, this is how they're experiencing this pain point, and bring me into their story. Right? And let me feel that pain point very deeply for one person, because if it's true for that person and it's true for you, like you probably experienced it too, then I know as an investor, it's probably a huge problem for millions of other people. But unless you bring me intimately into that one person's story, if you gloss over that one person's story, I'm never going to connect in. You know, I have to connect in with that one person first. So make sure you have that in the first few slides of your deck. Another thing here is like, oftentimes founders will be like, but my vision is so big. Like, how do I even explain it like in 3 slides? And like, that's part of the work I do, is like helping you make it concise. But the trick is to make sure that your journal, maybe journaling it out with all of the bigness of the vision and the industry and the pain points of the users. And then the trick is just in then like making it into a full bullet. So you're not watering it down. You're taking like the potency of it, but you're just communicating it concisely. But that's like part of the art of doing it. Okay, so number 2. create a container for others to join me in my vision. Okay, so here's how I see this playing out with founders. So if you're not holding a strong container, this is where you have to decide. I'm raising 500K, I'm raising 1.5 million, right? In this time frame. Now, deciding doesn't mean that if you don't reach it, you failed. Deciding does not mean that if you don't reach it, you failed. Deciding means that you're honoring your ability as a creator. Like I decide, like it's happening, right? So that's holding a strong container, and every stakeholder you're trying to invite, every investor you're trying to invite can feel your energy of if you're like, would you maybe invest? Or like, oh, I'm raising and I'm just inviting you along for the ride. I'm inviting you along for the party. Like, can you feel the energy between the two? Like, if you don't invest, then maybe I'm not raising, like, versus I'm raising no matter what. And it's just a matter of who is going to say yes to me. And so the way this plays out is like, if you're changing your fundraising amount based on like what people are telling you, like, oh, you're not going to be able to raise that much. You should probably like raise less. Or, you know, I think you should raise more, like, you know what I mean? Like, just get that input, but then choose your number and then stick to it. And then changing your pitch deck endlessly based on feedback from investors and mentors, which, I mean, like, let me know in the chat comment, in the chat box, if you've experienced this, but this sucks because you like the micromanaging of the pitch deck, because the problem here is that you are, the pitch deck is a reflection of you. So if you're sitting there like finagling your pitch deck, every time you get a piece of feedback, it's going to make you feel very unstable. So again, you need to get all that feedback, but the deck needs to be a reflection of the next level of you. The deck is not a reflection of where you are right now. It should convey the essence of not 10 years in the future, but just your next level. So if your next level is a 1.5 million seed raise, I want to feel that energy and like that reflected in the numbers and the vision and the team, all of those things, right? And so up level it to that point, but then like keep it there and like don't keep changing it. Yeah, I see like some comments. Yeah. So codify the next level version of your venture once and then hold the container for dear life. Hodl that, hodl it like you would with Bitcoin. Just hold it and let the right people find you in there. Okay, so the third one. So, and so for this one, being seen and heard fully, becoming a magnet for values-aligned people. So the way that I see this play out in the pitch deck and in the fundraise, what I'm doing is so multifaceted that people just don't get it. And so I'm going to have to dumb it down for people to get it. Or the belief that, you know, like some people, they're just like really wealthy and all their friends are wealthy, or they're like from San Francisco, and like it's just so easy for them to raise money. And like, it's really hard for me because I don't live in San Francisco, or like I don't have that kind of background. So amazingly enough, these two things aren't true, because I've seen time and again founders from every background, from any sort of vision, like being able to raise that money, because it's about human connection and creatorship. Like, honestly, it's about also our creatorship. So it's really about, again, holding that container, but shutting off your mind and taking consistent action, micro actions, and then letting the right people come to you in the right timing. And not getting hung up on any single person, like, oh, that person was interested, they didn't get back to me. Like, you know, don't get hung up on, detach from the individual people, but keep taking actions to allow the right people to come in. Also, and this is part of the feminine energy thing, is creation over outcomes, like celebrate everything, like celebrate every dollar that comes into your raise. And celebrate like every, even if it's $1,000, $10,000. And so creation over outcomes, because the outcomes come, as long as you stay in the energy of the creation. You guys liking this so far? I'm leveling myself and putting on my goddess robes. Yes. So yes, loving it. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to say this stuff works. It's not some woo-woo feminine energy stuff. Like, this stuff works because I'm a true believer that what's on the inside is immediately reflected back on the outside. And it doesn't take time. It takes alignment. Time isn't even real. Like, things can happen really fast in a short time, and then nothing can happen for a long time, right? It's about alignment and getting in the right mindset and the right energy of this. This is the best Zoom of 2021. I love you, Johnny. Thank you. So this stuff works, okay? I have a founder who came so I run a program called Pitch Lab at the Female Founders Lab. And it's a 3-month container. It used to be a 6-week container when I ran it. Now it's a 3-month. But basically, we up-level your pitch deck, and then I'm like, okay, go raise money. And we do this in community with a community of other founders. And I do work with men as well, by the way. I know that there's men also in the chat box, but people who resonate with the feminine energy approach. And so I had a founder come into Pitch Lab she was building a mental health medication platform, which required a lot of upfront capital to buy the data from the pharma companies. So she literally had no product. She just had this UX design of how she wanted it to look, because she didn't have any data. So because she didn't have a product, she had no pilots, but she had this amazing vision. And so actually, after her first coaching call with me, she moved countries. She broke up with her boyfriend. She moved in with her co-founder in LA, and she raised $400K in 4 weeks. Had another founder come into Pitch Lab who had 30 years experience in the agriculture industry in Australia. So a very veteran of industry, but always really operating inside this very highly masculine environment where she felt like she couldn't express her vision truly. And so I opened her voice, helped her feel really comfortable in her feminine business model. And funny story, so a former colleague of hers who she used to complain about, she shared her vision with him. He's like, oh, now I get what you're doing. That's amazing. I'll partner with you for a $500K business contract. This happened in the 2nd week of the program. So the whole energy shifted around it, right? So I've had a founder come in with less than 30 users and get brand name partnerships with Covered California and Kaiser Permanente in a few weeks. I've had a founder in Estonia get on her national TV show. I've got 2 founders get into Techstars. And one of them has 700K, that should be 700K ARR in a few months from securing some really big contracts, starting with almost no revenue. So the basic pattern here, as you can see, is this is what I call quantum results. And the thing here is that, again, it's about these energetic alignments, right? It's oh yes, this is what I'm creating, right? And then having someone to kind of hold you through that process. And it's also just about deciding, right? So deciding and having again, having someone to hold you through the process of doing that. So yeah, that's a little bit about my work. That's a little bit about the sort of things that I've done with founders. And so if you're actually raising a pre-seed or seed round, I'm totally happy to get on a call with you guys. And I think Cody or Colin can put the link in the chat box. But I can do a 45-minute complimentary inner outer up-leveling assessment of your pitch deck. And I'm totally happy to do this if you're raising money right now, or if you're kind of getting into the next level of B2B partnerships, or wherever it is that you want to be pitching and bringing your message out. So yes, that is the link. And the sooner, I know it's like the holiday season, but like happy to do these like in the next week until Christmas, and then also like in the new year. But I always say, like, if this talk activated you and you feel like something has been awakened, I always say, like, follow the breadcrumbs and like ride the momentum of that. And there's my email address as well for you guys. So, thank you, Dana. Thank you, Adele. So I want to pass it over to Cody or Colin, and we're gonna move into Q&A, which is gonna be really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nilima. Great job. And as I've seen in the chat this entire time, everyone really likes what you got. So based on that, what are your questions for her? Drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We've got 13 whole minutes left on this session, so wouldn't want you to miss the opportunity to ask your questions. So drop them in the Q&A box and we'll see what we got. We also have some pre-submitted ones that I can roll off as you're thinking. But all right, Amy, we're getting started strong. What did you do with that original pitch deck? How did you hold on to your container?
So was this for my iShop pitch deck for my sex education product, or is that what she's talking about?
Yes, she just confirmed.
Let me see. Oh, what did you do with that original pitch deck? Did you hold on to your container? Yeah, so so I had my pitch deck, and I think, I had my partner pitch deck for like the ed tech companies I was selling to, and then I had my investor deck. I think like for me, my business model was really about selling to these large like corporations, and I always felt more comfortable with the partner deck than the investor deck, because I think there's a part of me that didn't really want to raise investor money. And it's just because I was like in the startup ecosystem, I was like raising investor money as well. But the B2B contracts were actually enough to like move me forward. And so that's actually a great point for some of you guys. Is like, if you're B2B, you don't always have to be raising money as well.
Awesome. Somebody asked, have you ever worked with nonprofits?
Yep, I work with nonprofits as well. It's really like structurally it's different because you're like raising grants, and so it's easier for the money flow when there's like a little bit of revenue, or like in the VC space. But the energetic principles definitely still hold true in terms of being a magnet.
Some already rolling right along. What kind of traction do you see companies needs when they have an efficient raise?
So it's going to depend on industry. Basically, the investor is going to be looking at, do you have product market? Like, do you know your customer really well? Like, right? So do you have validation from your users where they're loving what you're creating, it's making value for them? You have even qualitative testimonials about how it's transforming their lives. And that's going to be the key. And so if you can show you've done this with a select group of people, and that there's replicability of that impact, that's going to be more important than like the exact number.
I hear you. Velocity. Thanks for the question, Katie. I'm in the vision business plan phase. Where do I start looking for investors? They're in media, music, and entertainment.
Yeah. If you're in the vision phase, I mean, you don't necessarily need to, I think that, and it's interesting you're in the media space because I know that functions a little bit differently. But I think that, like, broadly, I think we think of investors as someone outside of ourselves. This is a little deep, so stay with me for a second. We think of it as like some dude out there in a suit, like that we need to find. And the funny thing is that everyone is an investor. Like anyone, many people can be investors and they can contribute to what you're building. And even if they can't contribute financially, they can contribute in different ways. So I would actually start looking around you with the eyes of like, anyone in this room could help me, and just start sharing with people in like many different sorts of rooms as well, maybe even outside of where you'd normally go.
Awesome. That's good advice. What if you feel you're very close to that pulling vision, but not fully there yet?
Sorry, what was that? I don't see it in the thing.
Oh, I just answered. I just clicked the answer button. What if you feel you're very close to that pulling vision, but not fully there yet?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So usually there's a seed, and it's like a nagging feeling. Like this thing keeps calling me, but I don't know exactly what the vision is or how it's actually going to play out. And so I always say, like, follow the breadcrumbs. So if you feel like it has something to do with being in schools, like go into a school and like teach kids and see what's there. Like follow the breadcrumbs. Of course, meditation practices and journaling and stuff like that also helps. But I think also accountability to your vision, because it's very easy to just like be like, yeah, I'll just wait for it to like come in, but you have to take actions to like invite it in.
That's good advice. Do you have any special considerations for pitching social enterprises or nonprofits?
Yeah, just the impact side of things, right? So basically, I know people say like choose one, like are you pitching the impact or are you pitching it as a business? I don't exactly believe in that. But I do think that if you're like particularly a nonprofit, like social enterprises are pretty much tech startups. So I mean, just like go big, like this is my vision, this is how much money. Don't like raise less because it's social impact, like it's a for-profit, you know, just go just as big as the mainstream tech startups. But if it's a nonprofit, then like we really want to know who is this community and why are you uniquely why are you unique to being able to serve them?
Super helpful. Yeah, and I just encourage everyone to think big, but not to feel overwhelmed by the many steps that need to get you to the end, right? Let's see, another question from Chris. How do you apply this methodology to motivate men to work with you instead of being intimidated and unwilling to work under you because you're a woman? Oof. Maybe not work with that man, no. I joke, but that's a real question.
Yeah. It's a good question. So I think because like for a long time, women have had to perform, like be performative inside masculine industries. So women have had to be like more tough and like serious and not wear colors and lipstick and like just be like a man, right? Because that had to do that to get respect. And I think that we're seeing a shift of just a lot more open, like heart openness towards feminine energy in general. And I think that if you're able, like as a female founder, if you're able to create that authenticity of that, the feminine energy, like in your culture, then I think everyone feels safe. I think men feel really safe being held in a feminine energy, like space, like with under like a competent, capable, like female leader, but they don't feel like they're going to be like punished for like, you know, it's like where it's actually like you're being compassionately held in that space. And I think that men are really open to that. And I think that I think like, you know, it might be scary. So like, yeah, I mean, I think that I do find like, I think it's just good for everyone when people are able to balance that energy. But yeah.
That's helpful. And then Nasdaq Center has an entirely female leadership team. So that's why I was like, find a different person if I don't want to be there.
Yeah, that's also
because I'm not guided.
I mean, so, like, yeah.
Let's see, we have some pre-submitted questions, but if you have any other ones, we'd like to answer them live. So drop them in the Q&A box, but let's see which one would be helpful for everybody. How do you evolve your pitch from year to year? That's in the pre-submitted.
Yeah, so you want to basically, you have to know what your up level is. Okay, so you can do it with rounds if that's easy. Okay, first seed round needs to be here, right? And then you can do it again for like the next, but then when you do the next level, make sure you're doing it like don't just like be in fundraising mode all the time. Like you'll just be like going on and on and on. Like finish the fundraise, have a break, even if it's a few months. I know some people raise right away, but at least sometime, then revisit fresh and being like, okay, where am I going from here, given what we've done in the last few months? So just don't be like continually like dragging out the same deck, like try to come back fresh for the next one.
I can't agree with you more on that one. It's never set in stone. It should be constantly evolving based on the feedback that people they give you. So Alero, hi Alero, what do investors really want to see in your pitch deck?
Yes, that's like there's many things. Yeah, I mean, at the early stage, it's really like, are you serving like a real thing that people need? Like, do your users, are the customers and users really like loving it? Like, are you getting like brand recognition for it? Like maybe it got published somewhere. Like, just is there validation from the marketplace, right? And then like, is it a market? Is it like a big enough market where you can like scale it out? But yeah, I mean, it's a really good question.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're almost at time, but really enjoyed learning from you during this session. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and your expertise. And I hope everybody on the call enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. I hope to meet some of you guys.
Great. Well, yeah, the Cody has shared the link in the chat for
and you can also check out, if you go to the femalefounderslab.com and you just like scroll all the way down, you can get on my newsletter. So I just put that in the chat box.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with the community. Hopefully everyone will pitch like a goddess from now on. On behalf of everyone at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone still on the call, we hope to see you back online soon. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.